Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the installment of Scott Selections for Friday, November 13th. Before getting today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We ended up giving out a play on the UFC card this weekend, so if you've not checked out the video, you can do so as it should be the video before this one. But for today's play of the day, we're going to be doing an NFL two-pick parlay that we ended up taking a break from last week. We did a teaser instead, which unfortunately did not work out. But we are going to be doing a two-pick moneyline parlay here. They've been pretty profitable for us so far this season. So hopefully that's going to continue, and this two-pick should pay out at minus 106 on DraftKings, a time recording of 2:02 a.m. Eastern Time. So the two-pick parlay, the first play is going to be on the Eagles' money line at minus 175 against the Giants. A couple reasons why I like the Eagles in this spot. First of all, I know, of course, the Eagles have been a very, very painful team to watch so far this season, despite being 3-4. They're in first place in the NFC East, which means absolutely nothing because the whole division's terrible. The Eagles did win the first meeting a couple of weeks ago by 1 point. However, it is worth mentioning that Philly enters this game off of the bye, which is extremely important because Philly has been dealing with a ton of injuries, and a lot of key players did not play in that first meeting. So I do think the Eagles should be able to look a lot better off the bye now that they are fully healthy. Looking at some of the people that might be returning and the people that were full participants in practice, Fletcher Cox should be back. You have Malik Jackson who should be back. So expect Philly's defensive line to look significantly better as they should be getting their top two defensive tackles back. You also have Alshon Jeffrey, who is a full participant, so he might return for the receiving core. Jason Peters' return, which hit up the offensive line. The big addition is Miles Sanders, who should be back. I know that Philly was forced to use Boston Scott in a very interesting starting running back role, and it's clearly not his preferred role. But you have Miles Sanders back, which should be a big deal because he is obviously a very solid running back, and I do think that he should put on a pretty good performance against the Giants in this one. You also have full participants with two offensive line. In addition to Peters, you have Driscoll and Herbig, who are both full participants, which should help a little bit of the depth for the Eagles' offensive line. And you also have Lane Johnson, who was limited in practice, and he has been in and out of the lineup all year long with an ankle injury, so he should play in this one. The Giants don't have many injuries to report besides the fact that Devontae Freeman had a setback in practice this week, so there is a chance he might not play, which means that you might get Wayne Gallman, Alfred Morris, and Dion Lewis one more time. I know the Giants so far this season have been underwhelming. The last couple of weeks they have been pretty good. They ended up barely losing to a Tampa team, and they ended up beating Washington last week. However, I believe that those performances are a little bit overrated. I know they ended up performing well against Tampa. Tampa, it looks like they're a team in free fall. I think that they are just not as good as people thought they were going to be. Still impressive they hung around, but at the end of the day, Tampa had a look at spot to New Orleans, and they also have been struggling a lot lately. So I wonder how impressive that performance was. And then they ended up beating Washington last week by 3 points. And it is worth mentioning that Washington's starting quarterback and Kyle Allen got injured early on in that game. Plus, the Giants almost blew a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, and they probably should have if Alex Smith did not throw interceptions on the last two potential game-tying drives. So the Giants, even though they have looked better lately, still not very good. This offense is still one of the worst in all of football in terms of points per game. They're really just struggling in all cylinders when it comes to putting up points. They're averaging 18.7 points per game. In home games, they've been even worse. They're averaging 17 points per game. This team just can't really score, and you know Daniel Jones is always good for a turnover or two, especially after not having one last week. And the Eagles getting a couple of defensive tackles back should be able to pressure Daniel Jones throughout all four quarters because Jones and the Giants have a very underwhelming offensive line, which forces Jones to making some quick decisions. But Philly is getting healthier, and Philly did win the first game despite the fact they didn't play well at all. They're getting healthier. I think they should be able to get the job done, especially off a bye where they had an extra week of preparation. So for me, the first play in this two-pick is going to be on the Eagles' money line at minus 175 on DraftKings. And the second play is going to be on one of the biggest chalks on the board. It's going to be on the Saints, and it's going to be available on the money line at minus 420 on DraftKings. They take on the 49ers. I know the 49ers had a couple extra days of preparation because they played on Thursday. I don't think it really matters. They might be getting Richard Sherman back, which is a big addition, but they're also going to be losing Tart, who got injured, and he'll probably be out for the next couple of weeks or the rest of the season. The issue that the 49ers have is they're just so injury-riddled on both sides of the ball. In addition to Garoppolo being out, Tevin Coleman, all these guys, Kittle, of course. Their number one receiver last week was Richie James, who, don't get me wrong, he seems like a pretty talented receiver, and though he didn't get much playing time when 49ers were completely healthy. Ayuk should potentially be back, but at the end of the day, the Saints do have Marcus Lattimore, a very solid secondary, and James was able to have some success, mostly because of the fact that Jair Alexander, the Packers' number one corner, ended up leaving the game early. So their secondary was a little bit more banged up than people anticipated. But Lattimore is one of the best in the business. The Saints are coming into this game following a phenomenal performance, best performance of the season against Tampa. And they know that if they win this game and they could pile up some wins, they could easily create some separation between them and Tampa, which could get them further along into actually winning the division once again. Now, the Saints have been kind of flying under the radar a little bit. I know everyone expected Tampa to win that Sunday night game last week, but if you look at how New Orleans has been playing lately, they have been really, really good. Not really against the number, but in terms of straight up, as the Saints have won each of their last 5 games, and nobody's really talking about it. Meanwhile, San Francisco, they looked awful against Seattle before garbage time. They looked awful against Green Bay before garbage time. Nick Mullins just isn't an NFL quarterback. They should probably go to Beathard, but it seems like Mullins is going to be getting the start. They can't really run the ball that well. The offensive line hasn't been that great. The receiving core is not good. The defensive line's not good. And now the secondary and the linebacking core have been also injured and underperforming as well. But Breeze is coming to this game in great form, and I simply think that the Saints should be able to take care of business at home in this spot. So once again, the 2-pick parlay here for the NFL Sunday is going to be on the Eagles money line and the Saints money line, and that pays out at -106 on DraftKings. That's been the installment Scott Selections. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.